Last week officially marked our 10th episode of the Life We Chose podcast.
Yes.
All right.
Give it up.
Yeah, the round of applause, right? The sound effects are going to come in. It officially marks 10 episodes of the podcast.
Yes.
And it was crazy because we almost really didn't catch it because we just in the zone of creating, in the zone of creating the podcast. But it's been a journey.
Yeah.
Over these last 10 episodes, 10 weeks long.
10 weeks.
10 weeks long. And I don't even know if we thought that, does it feel like it's been?
In a sense, I mean, I feel like time has passed for sure. Because I just feel like there's so many things that have happened that have revealed growth to us.
Yeah.
But in the same sentence, it's I don't know. It's just I feel like if we partially blinked and it's just oh, we're 10 deep, And then it's with it being an episode a week, it's the time just moves. So it's 10 episodes is what equivalent to 2.5 months worth of content.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the next year we make we're gonna make 52 episodes.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And man. So much has happened in these last 10 episodes, and I really want to talk about what it's been like.
Yeah.
We want to talk about what this whole process has been like. What it's like creating the podcast, how it's been for us, how even talking about some of the equipment we use, breaking that all down. This podcast episode is gonna be about the podcast. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know there are people who've hit me up asking yo, how did you set up your podcast? How do you do this? What do you think about this platform over that platform?
Exactly.
How do you distribute? All these questions are gonna get answered in this episode.
Yeah. No, for sure. But before we get into it, I do want to do a little housework. You guys, if you are listening from YouTube, we thank you. We appreciate you. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you are listening on your favorite audio streaming platform, be sure to give us a 5-star rating. All your support and your comments and all of those things are part of why this message continues to spread and why we can have episodes like this to be able to even go behind the scenes and break down to some of the people who want to know what it takes to make a podcast. The reason you guys giving us that feedback is how we get that information out to you. So yeah, I'm excited for this episode.
For real. It's been an up and down journey for me.
Yeah.
I can honestly, it's when we first decided to do the podcast, right? I was thinking about doing a podcast, right? I saw you do your podcast earlier this year. Yeah. And I was just oh, that looks really dope. I think I want to, try my hand at that. Being able to take my diary entries and turn it into something. I thought it was super profound. So you were inspiring me. I was I really want to do something. So I recorded an episode, right? And I sent it over to you. And I was just oh yeah, I want you to hear what this sounds like. And you was yo, your voice and your thing, whatever. It sounds authentic. Dope. It sounded
dope,
it was
honestly,
it sounded great. And I was I feel like I want to do this thing. But I'm still thinking about it, whatever. And we ended up having one of those conversations again, talking for a few hours on the phone.
Yeah.
And it just made sense because I was just I think we should be doing this together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think we should just do this in front of the camera. All right? This is a little backstory, you know what I mean? A little history on how the life we chose became the life we chose, right?
Yeah.
He's all right, let's do this. Let's see what it's like. And I think even before we released our first episode, before we even released our first episode, we were receiving so much confirmation from the universe that this was the path that we should take.
Yes.
When we went out, we did the shoot when we went out to Kearney Point, when we, kind of started to conceptualize what the podcast was about.
Yeah.
It almost
just
felt
a little context for you guys. Kearney Point is actually a studio in Kearney. We went out to actually meet with some podcasters to figure out how are we actually going to do this thing, because we had started recording some of the episodes, but we didn't have a foundation of what it meant to be a podcast. And so this was an event for podcasters to learn about podcasting. And then so we, stepped out and just, took some time to see if we could figure something out.
Yeah. It was a really that night, really changed my perspective
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, and it rejuvenated an energy. It caused a shift. You know, because it made me feel like for a long time I felt very lost.
Yeah.
So it gave me a sense of clarity that I really appreciated.
Yeah.
I've really appreciated after that event. So we were going to start this thing like, you know, nose to the grind. You know what I mean? And like be like, yo, this is it.
Head down.
Let's go ham. You know what I'm saying? And I think that like, you know, we started off and we're just like, all right, we're going to do, you know, whether or not it's YouTube, whether we're going to be on audio streaming.
Yeah.
So if you guys are interested, we distribute the podcast using Buzzsprout. Right. Yeah. So we're not sponsored by any of the companies or any of the items that we named, but we are going to leave, for the equipment that we use, we'll leave links in the show notes and in the YouTube description. So you could check out any of the equipment that we use.
Yeah.
But we use Buzzsprout because Buzzsprout, we can we upload. We could upload a bunch of episodes at a single time, add our show notes in and all that. And then it can be distributed directly to other directories like Apple Podcasts, Google, iHeartRadio, all those other, Spotify and stuff like that. So it's been really nice, because you do, in the world of how we break down how the podcast is, working, you do the upload process. How do you like Buzzsprout?
Buzzsprout is pretty good, honestly. It's like a very straightforward platform. You upload the content, you fill in the title, the description, any links you want to add to it, you place in there. And it's just, you set the day and the time and you're pretty good to go. It's audio, so it doesn't take as long to upload as it would with YouTube. And that's also the only difference, like, when it comes to the streaming, the only one that is a separate process is YouTube, because it's the video platform, so we upload that separately to YouTube. But I mean, everything else as far as audio goes is uploaded to Buzzsprout and it's spread to whatever streaming platform that you guys want to listen to it on. So it really simplifies that process, and it just makes it easy for you to get that message across to anyone.
Yeah, we upload it once for the audio streaming, and it goes everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think when you post, like, if you post if you upload a podcast, like, it doesn't take long for it to show up.
Oh no, it's
in the
immediate.
directory. Yeah, it's almost immediate. So if you were to say like, oh, I'm going to start a podcast tomorrow, you can record the episode and then upload it and then, get it in that same, like, a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then the cool thing about that too is that if you upload it and you want to change the description or you want to change the title, it's like you can go back, edit it, and have it fixed in minutes. Yeah,
and then it'll change on the platform. So super awesome platform that we use, and we're gonna stick with it for a little while, what I mean, until I don't know when that'll change. But that's how we handle distribution, right? And then Kim handles that back end, the back end of doing that, right? And then the next half of what we got is like, once we create the episodes, right? Once we have the episodes, Kim's chopping up all of the content for both YouTube, getting the audio so that it's on audio streaming, and then creating Instagram reels. Right? Yeah. So the reels, the short form content, the promos, the things like that, so that we're able to then take that and use it on social media.
Yeah.
Social media, like when we sat down initially, was going to be, a full strategy.
Yeah.
Right? It was like 3 posts a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 7 days a week. A mix of, carousels, quotes, Instagram reels. And I know, and if anyone's listening, they're probably like, whoa, that's like, what I mean? That was work. But there's 2 of us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that, something for me, because in full transparency, get a little behind the curtain, is that we created this strategy and I was going to be in charge of that process. And then throughout that period, like when we first started releasing the episodes of the podcast, I started going through a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right? In my own life, where it was like I was completely away from the podcast. Like once I shot and recorded the episodes, I was off in my own world trying to figure out what I was going to do to, figure out my own situation.
Yeah.
And that was kind of rough.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a journey. It was definitely a little bit of a journey, because we did kind of create a foundation where, the way that we would handle the work, we just we laid out just, how we would do it. And I think that a lot of times what's really hard for us to account for is the real life situations that happen outside of what exists on paper.
Yeah.
You know, you can never put on paper, hey, this day I'm not going to feel so great, so I might need, you know, some extra energy or something like that. And I think that that for us, over time, it became a little bit of an obstacle that we had to figure out as two co-hosts who want to see this thing through. How do we navigate through some of those like obstacles?
Yeah.
And it became a really important thing for both of us to realize how important communication is when it comes to working with another person. And not just like, you know, expressing your feelings, but like being, you know, in a space where you can kind of hold space for where another person is in the journey of their life at this time.
Yeah.
Because if I can look at your perspective and see something from your perspective, but still hold space for how I feel, then we can communicate a little clearer without it being a fight match or a shout match or something like that. Yeah.
And I can only imagine, like, you know, because that's one of the things when you work with someone else, when you have a co-host.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you kind of, like, I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but, like, it's very rare that people will see things from someone else's viewpoint and hold space for what they have going on.
Yeah.
Because the thing is like, just adding the context to it is that, like, you know, I dropped the ball completely when it came to social media, right? So all the content that I was supposed to create, I wasn't able to create it. You know, I was burnt out. I was like dealing with a lot of resistance, you know, depression, and a lot of like things that were stopping me from creating. Like, I didn't want to make anything, you know. Like, once we shot the podcast, I just went, you know, into my shell and was trying to figure out my own, you know, lifing kind of things.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, the fact that, like, you could say to yourself, like, okay, Queen is going through this thing, but I'm also dealing with, like, having to do a lot of this work on my own. It's still not fair. You know what I mean? Even though it's like, Queen, yeah, you could be, you know what I mean? You could mentally need a break right now. That's cool. But, like, I still got what I still got going on.
Yeah.
But, like, sometimes when you deal with disagreements with people, whatever they're going through is louder, bigger, and wider than whatever the other person is going through.
Yeah.
Like, when you miss the empathy part, you know what I mean? When you miss the, like, I see what they're going through. I see their universe, how, you know. And it was really great for us. The reason we bring it up is because it showed us a lot about how we communicate with each other.
Yeah.
Because when, you know, Kim brought it up, it was just like, yo, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, let's figure this thing out. You know, it's, you know, for me, I had to hold accountability and be like, yo, I dropped the ball, like, you know, and you was there. So if you go over to our Instagram page, Life We Chose Pod, all that content is Kim. All that content is Kim. So shout out to Kim. You know what I mean? She might be the shout out for this episode.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Kim. You know what I mean? For holding it down on the social media. So my advice to anybody who may be in that particular thing is that when we had to have that conversation, one is that if you have something going on, communicate it as early as possible.
Yeah.
Communicate it as early as possible. Not even necessarily worrying about how you say things, but getting it out. Because if you don't communicate the issues that you have with someone early on, you are going to hold it. It goes somewhere.
Yeah.
It may not come out of your mouth, but it's going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that could turn into resentment. You know what I mean? You know too many people who's like, you ain't say something before, and then the way they chew pisses you off now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the way they walk into a room, you know?
Yeah. So what I think that, like, when I think about the people that may ask you or me, like, what does it take to make a podcast? Like, we exist in a world where our cell phones are great cameras now, right?
Yeah.
And like the barrier to entry for like quality has decreased because everything is nearly quality now.
Yeah.
So when I think about, for us, you know, what it really takes to make a podcast, especially if you're working with another person, is like clarity and communication, and like really understanding what the goals are, and being able to have hard talks and hard conversations about those goals shifting and changing over time, because that could be the difference between us sitting here today and it just not being a thing anymore.
Yes.
You know, because just if I hold something in, keep it to myself and feel a way about it, and then like the argument we have is completely like unrelated to this, and it's like, well, I don't know why Kim came at me like that. That was crazy. You know,
yeah.
Like, it changes the dynamic of how you even sit on this couch. Had we not have had that talk,
yeah,
I don't even know what the episodes moving forward would feel like if I'm holding a resentment of like, well, this isn't fair, you know, or things like that. So I think that like the biggest thing when it comes to, you know, podcasting is really understanding and setting a foundation with the person you're working with. Like we said in the beginning, before we even like shot, I think maybe we did one episode or so or something like that, but before we even really got into it, we said if we got problems we gonna talk first. Like, ain't the outside world or none of that. Like if we have a problem, address it here. We will solve it here. And then like following that, another thing that, you know, we talked about is what are we willing to do for the podcast. And so when we say that, and I know what journey we are with this, and that this is a long-term journey, I'm willing to carry the wheelbarrow if, you know, you can't quite run right now, because I know in longevity that I'm gonna be weak somewhere one day.
Like one day someday I'm
gonna be a little too tired, and you're gonna have to carry the wheelbarrow. And so I want to make sure that it's known on my end I am willing to do whatever for the podcast to see it through, you know. So
so it's like, I think what you're talking about is profound on the idea of like we can't allow an obstacle to come in the way of the creation of what we're doing, you know. And that obstacle could be anything. It could be dropping the ball on when it comes to social. It could be a fear of perfection. You know what I mean? Where it's like you could record episodes, you may not like it. I didn't sound good. I didn't, you know, whatever. I'm gonna cut that one. We gonna do it again. There's so many things that can come in the way, and like I'm not. Like, to be honest with you guys, I'm not super concerned about how the first 100 episodes sound. Because I want to get to episode 101. You know what I mean? I want to get to episode 200. You know what I mean? I'll start, you know, getting into the nitty-gritty when we start getting there. Right now, we're loosening the bolts. You know what I mean? We just squeezing oil on the gears. You know what I mean? This is just the first step in this process. So, like, not only getting over these, you know, the obstacles and, you know, moving over the humps, removing this idea of perfectionism, because not every podcast episode is going to sound like you're sitting down with Oprah, you know. It's not going to work that way. You know, some days you're going to want to pod, some days you're not going to want to pod, but the whole idea is that we're consistent. Like, it's like, all right, we're going to do this one, we're going to move on to the next one, and we'll get better and better and better. Yes,
the line isn't always straight, it isn't always perfect, but we're going to keep going and keep doing it. You know, there's plenty of episodes I'm looking back and I'm like, why did I pause so long right there? All those what is going on? But you know, just being the, you know, holding space to be able to, you know, say, I know that wasn't perfect, but I'm gonna continue to try. Because eventually when we're 100 episodes down or deep, or, you know, it's like, it's just gonna turn on and we won't even notice that it's switched. Or like, it would take us having to look back at episode 1 to be like, wow. Look at how much we've grown.
Look at how much we've gotten here. And it's like, I think, you know, I feel like we are coming from a place of privilege. Okay. And I want to acknowledge that, because there are people who are going to look at this podcast on YouTube and be like, y'all not starting at zero. You know what I mean? You ain't, this don't look like the mud. And it's simply because you guys haven't been here for, you know, when we did the future video. You know, they weren't around for when we did, you know, any of the content from the days. So you don't know where we've come from. But like, it's not necessarily just about the quality of the content, although we'll tell you about the equipment that we use to make this podcast look the way that it does. But much deeper than that is the willingness to keep failing forward. Keep failing forward. So what kind of camera? Because we talked about doing it, like, you could use your cell phone or whatever. But what kind of camera are we shooting with? Like, what is this setup that we got going on?
So right now we have the Sony A7R III. And I think we have the GM lens. We're looking at the 24 to 72, I think. Yeah, I think the 24 to 72 GM lens, 2.8 aperture. For my, I'm
about to say, because that sounds like we have one light set up. This is a fancy light. What's this light?
One light set up. I'm not sure which brand light, I'll be honest. But it would be equivalent. It would be equivalent to an aperture 300.
Oh.
So
yeah, I got some box lights.
Yeah, we got something similar to equivalent to the aperture 300. I'll look it up and put it in there in the comments, because anybody who is looking for affordable equipment, this is definitely
that's the way to
light.
go.
Yeah, this light has held me down for less than half of the price.
Really?
Yeah. And we got a diffusion on it as well to kind of soften up the light. So yeah. Got that.
Yeah.
The camera's just on a tripod, and then it's connected to what do we have here?
These are the Shure SM58s.
Yeah.
SM48s.
48s.
Yes.
Nice.
Shure SM48s, and these are pretty cheap microphones too. I think this was under like $40 or $50.
Yeah.
Yeah, per mic. So it wasn't.
Yeah, we'll I'm gonna actually calculate.
Yeah, we should.
Our setup.
We should calculate what it.
Like.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to add the camera. That's going.
But also, I do want to also put in alternative options for like getting started, because I understand you're right. We're coming from different places, but we've been creating for years.
Yeah.
The camera that I started with was far from where I'm at now. I've only gotten this camera like a year ago.
Yeah.
But like, journey through filmmaking, journey through creating as an artist for years. It took the years of those creative moments to even get to a day one as a podcast. So honestly, if you're starting your day one podcast, you're probably ahead of the game in theory.
In theory, you are. I mean, anyone with a day one right now using an iPhone on 4K 24 frames per second is much further than we were when we first shot a video. Okay, we used to use tapes. Okay,
yes. Oh my God,
we used to use tapes. Every shot mattered. Okay,
to render the film.
You know what I mean? Every shot mattered. Yes. But I think that I actually had a conversation recently with a young gentleman who was interested in podcasting.
Okay.
And I was talking because he's like, yeah, I really want to get like a nice camera because I want it to be high quality. I want people to take me seriously. And a lot of people say that when it comes to podcasting or starting YouTube channels or whatever, they're like, I want to get this really great equipment so people will just so I'm good. So that they know that I'm good. The thing about it is, if you're looking to inspire people, if you're looking to create this type of inspirational content, you want people you already being good doesn't resonate with what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if the problem is that people talk about getting it from the mud, but nobody want to be in the mud.
Nobody want to show the mud.
Nobody want to show the mud. Like, that don't make no sense. They want to talk about how they've struggled from the beginning, but don't nobody want to look like they struggling.
Yeah.
The math don't math to me. The math don't math to me. Right? So you could set this up with your cell phone. You could set this up with a ring light. You know what I mean? If you wanted to start a YouTube channel and do something like that. And the real reason why you're starting off with the cheapest possible things, as you should. There's no way that you should be starting off with the type of equipment that we have in this room, right? For your first time ever.
Exactly.
Right? Which you're doing this so that you can learn how to edit. So that you can learn how to use the softwares, so that you can learn how to upload, so that you can learn how to do these things, because then you'll also be able to make the right determinations for how you want your thing to look.
Exactly.
Because some people who have podcasts will use a different, light, or a Canon instead of a Sony, or a black mat, whatever.
Exactly.
And you kind of find that out.
So you do that, and then on top of that, you're recording with the bare minimum to start. Because you need to even understand whether or not you want to do this.
Accurate.
You need to know if you want to do this long term. Are you here for the long haul? And if you're not, then why spend $2,000 on a camera you're not going to use? Mm-hmm. Make 3 episodes and decide, I'm too afraid to pursue this, or I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't the direction I wanted to go. So It makes a lot more sense to use the quality camera on a phone you already have to determine whether or not, I even want to have a podcast.
Yeah.
Whether or not I'm even willing to go through the year or 2 or 3 of no one really
listening,
interacting,
looking,
or
interacting.
Yeah, because I mean that's all the mental aspect of this. That's the hurdle as well.
That's the hurdle for real.
Things that we're even dealing with sometimes, where it's like, I put all of this energy into,
and then, we be out here cracking 50 views. You know what I mean? Bro.
And that's just genuinely just a part of the process. No one knows where you are right now. Like it's the beginning, and you have to be willing to climb through that to even determine if this is something that you want to do. So don't spend money on equipment you're not going to use. Find out if this is what you're going to do, and then get the things that you really need to move forward.
Absolutely, because you could spend $10,000 and have the best possible setup, but like, do you know how to use it?
Yeah.
Do you know how to use it? Because then you're gonna be stressed and aggravated. Well, you got to go through the process of turning 4K to this to be convert into whatever. Like
that's another thing.
Yeah.
The better the equipment doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna be great if you don't know what you're doing with it.
Exactly.
It does not matter.
We live by something called MVP, right? And MVP stands for minimum viable product. It means that you should be creating the bare minimum to actually achieve the goal that you want to achieve. Because a lot of the thing is that when you start a YouTube, when you start a podcast, you have dreams. You're like, oh, I want to do this. I want to have guests. I want to create a set. I want to do this. And it's like, dreams are always large. They're big. They're wide. They take up as much space as your imagination can go.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, like, we have to bring these dreams into reality.
Exactly.
And we have to enjoy the process of doing it. So when you start thinking of these big, overwhelming goals, guess what they become? Big and overwhelming. You know what I mean? Like, so you need to create the minimum version of what what you need in order for it to work. So, Buzzsprout, use that for distribution.
Yeah.
You could do an audio only, you could do a video only. You don't have to combine the two. If you're doing it with a co-host, be sure to have active communication, be able to talk about whatever's going on so that you can get over those hurdles and get over those obstacles.
Yeah.
All the equipment that we used is going to be in the show notes and the description for you to check that out, and to see what we got going on. And be sure to check out our social media page too, because there you're going to see what our social strategy looks like.
Exactly.
I'm actually really excited about the book recommendation for this week, because it was something that really helped me get out of this funk that I've been going through. And I say get out of kind of loosely. I mean, like, it's helping me build the ladder to come out of the hole, right? Okay. And the book is called The War of Art. Not the art of war, but The War of Art. Hold on. I should probably know who it's by. It's at the top. Okay. Stephen Pressfield. The War of Art, break through the blocks and win your inner creative battles.
Nice.
Yeah, right? Okay. Off rip, right? If anybody is thinking about doing a podcast or a YouTube channel, I almost guarantee you that the reason you're really interested in listening to this is because you're trying to find the answers. You're trying to break over those creative blocks right now, and this right here is a book that's going to help, because the book isn't about the step-by-step instructions to create it.
Okay.
Because we could do that. We could tell you, oh, this is the platform, this is the thing, this is the whatever. We can give you the instructions. There's also 100 videos on YouTube that could do the same. Yeah. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is, why does your resistance exist? Why does your resistance exist? Where is it coming from? Is it a fear of exposure? Is it a fear of rejection? Is it a fear that you could possibly be more successful than you ever imagined? Yeah. Because that is a fear. And this book really helped me kind of go through, like, what is it that's blocking me right now? Because it's not the fact that I don't want to create. I want to be an artist. I want to be creative, but something is in the way. Yeah. And it's a book that really starts talking about what are those things that are standing in your way. What do they look like? And then be honest with yourself about what that is, so that you can actually go off and start making the content that you want to make.
Wow.
So
really dope.
Really dope book. The War of Art, Stephen Pressfield.
And you said you've read it already?
I have. Oh. Yeah, I've read it. And by the way, like, this was the first book that I read in fast motion. You know, I didn't used to do that before. You know what I mean? I like, it was like I'm at the 1.15x.
And they tell you the difference in time too, like how long it'll take you to complete the book. Yeah,
exactly. So I've been doing the 1.15x, right? Mm-hmm. I might hit that up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So I grabbed this one. It's a really quick read too. Nice. So. Excuse me, it's a really quick read too, so I would highly, highly suggest listening to that book before you get into the process of doing the podcast or the YouTube channel, because it is going to open up some doors in you that you probably didn't realize.
Yeah, nice. I like that.
We're coming up to the shout out section of this particular episode of the podcast, and I actually want to shout out the person who brought this book to my attention, okay? And this particular being is a YouTuber. Okay. That I have been watching for quite some time.
Nice.
This YouTuber has been a part of some of the biggest life decisions that I've made, right? And has encouraged me, has held me accountable, and has never met me a day in his life, right? A day in his life. But like 3 to 4 days out the week, I am sitting and listening to him talk over the universe and my place in it. And this shout out goes to a YouTuber by the name of, his page is called Minnow Pond Tarot. Right, Minnow Pond Tarot is the channel, the YouTube channel. He does, he's a tarot card reader, but he also, like, you know, as he's going through the readings, recommends books. And in that particular week, he was talking about resistance and how, you know, breaking over creative blocks, which I was dealing with.
Yeah.
And the recommendation was to listen to the book.
Wow.
And like, it's crazy because that it goes from there to, you know, coming into my life, listening to it, and then planting that seed in someone else's life.
Wow.
And it's just like that cycle. You know, his mantra, like our mantra is the life we chose, right? His mantra is he wants to help people make a dent in the universe. And I think that's absolutely profound. So it's called Minnow Pond Tarot. And the gentleman who does the actual readings, his name is Chris Reck. So, you know, I want to shout you out because I've never commented on a video. I've never, like, you know, showed up in any of the YouTube description. Yeah, I mean, I never showed up in that way. But, like, it's crazy that I've been watching you for 3 or 4 years now. Yeah, probably about 4 years now. Probably about 4 years now. I've been watching you almost every single day. And I really, really appreciate the advice that you give, because I listen. You know, I'm definitely one of the tribes of the pond, so I want to take this time to give you your flowers.
Now, as always, you know, we have the 3 B's. What are we doing for our brain, our body, and our business? And this week is no different. I think I'm gonna keep it pretty simple. I think, you know, It's probably about the same as last week. For my brain, I'll be doing a lot of reading. I picked up another book, so I might be dancing between last week's book and this week's book, just for 2 different reasons, you know, some for the brain and some for, like, you know, just expanding, you know, and growing skills and things. So I'll be doing some reading. For the body, we're still going in with the workouts, you know, trying to rebuild that energy. It's getting cold out, so
yeah.
The resistance for waking up and walking into the cold is a little but we're gonna keep pushing through for that workout. And for the business, we still potting, you know, continuing to push forward, you know, even though we deal with some of these obstacles and things of that nature. We're gonna continue to push forward and continue to get this content to you guys. So what do you have for your 3 B's?
For my 3 B's, for my brain, so that was the book that I was going to recommend, right? I was like, that was what I was working on, The War of Art.
Nice.
I'm going to reread that book because I honestly think that book is going to follow me throughout the next few weeks of my existence now.
How often do you reread books?
It depends on the book, but I think I've probably reread maybe a dozen books.
Nice.
Yeah, maybe like a dozen books. Like Atlas of the Heart, I reread that one. Yeah. You know, I Hear You, I reread that, and then I just did The Art of War. So I'd probably say like a dozen books.
Okay.
Yeah, it really depends on the book and how long it is too.
That's true.
Because if it's a book that's like 12 hours long, I mean, like how many times can I? You know, you might halfway through you're gonna be like, I think it's time for me to, you know what I mean? Yeah. I've also done things where I reread chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if it's like, you know, if there's like a specific,
really resonated.
Yeah, like I just reread the 4 Hour Work Week.
Nice.
You know, but I reread a section of the book where it was talking about some things that I wanted to get answers to.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing for the brain, is, you know, rereading those books. I've also been doing, taking lion's mane, because I know in the past I talked about getting into mushrooms and different medicinal mushrooms, but I've been using lion's mane as just a way for hopefully, you know, develop my focus, develop some new neural passageways.
Okay.
So I've been doing the lion's mane. For my body, I actually am going to try a new recipe that I want you to try too.
Okay.
All right. So I got some pulled jackfruit.
All right.
Some pulled jackfruit with barbecue sauce. So it's like a play on like a pulled pork.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I'm going to make that. And we're going to see how that goes. Because I want to try some recipes that don't incorporate like very heavy meats, very heavy materials, so that I'm able to be a bit lighter on my feet. Yeah, because like when you come to your body, you have go foods and slow foods. So I'm trying to find some ways to get the go foods. Yeah, that's how they do it in school. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm gonna do for the body. In terms of the business, I have been working on proposals. Yeah, I'm really trying to get out of this hump that I was in. You know what I mean? When we talked about like me not being able to create. A lot of that had to do with like my financial situation. It had a lot to do with what I did for work and how I found my value. Which again, like that's how we know this podcast is unfolding. As it's happening. It's going, because these are all things that I was like really dealing with week by week by week. You know. But I did like 2 proposals last week to a program in New York City that I wanted to be a part of, and I did another one for a job opportunity that really resonated with me. Okay. And I think that, you know, as far as my brand goes, I thought those 2 proposals were incredible. I was so proud of them. And now I want to find more grants, more fellowships, more residencies. Because that was a big thing. I do a lot of pitching. And I felt like I kind of fell off on that. So for the business, I'm going ham, yo. I'm about to end up in people's lobbies. I'm about to be in like, you know what I mean? I'm about to pull up. I don't care if you want to see me or not. Hello, I'm Queena, and I could do it all. You know, so that's the kind of energy I want to be on. I love
that energy, big energy.
Yeah, big energy. So I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna let you guys know how it go. You know what I mean? I'm gonna let you know how it goes. So again, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Hopefully it planted some seeds for anybody who's interested in creating their own content, because it's not just about the equipment or the platforms or whatever. It's really it has so much more to do with the communication for the resilience whenever obstacles happen, and that's what's truly making this podcast move forward.
Yes, for sure. Listen, we love you guys. We appreciate you for tuning in. If you did get anything from this, be sure to comment below. We are not strangers. We're here building community, and we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. We are out.
Peace.
Yeah, this is the life that we chose. All about goals, all about getting the go. Pedal to metal, we drove. Head to the heels, I wanna give me a bow. 2020 be the vision, depicted the growth. Before I could get on the road, look at the level she rose. Cheddar.